Welcome, everyone. My guest for the sponsored episode is Erin Wester, Chief Product Officer at Optimal Blue, to talk about AI, API-first technology, and how Optimal Blue is constantly evolving to serve the needs of lenders. Erin, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
I love having you on. It's always a great conversation, and I always learn a lot. So let's jump in. We are right in the middle of, conference season in the mortgage industry. I've been to a bunch. I actually got to go to Optimal Blues event, which was super fun. And at all of these events, you hear a lot of things. It's on the agenda or whatever. It's the buzzwords, right, about modernization. It might be solutions that are cloud native or API fueled. So we hear a lot of things, but what do those terms mean for lenders as far as actually growing their business?
Yeah, great question. And it was great to have you in San Diego. So thank you for making the trip out and attending the conference. It was an excellent turnout. But as far as, modernization and all the tech buzzwords that change as the years go on, as new technologies are developed and released, really, I think it all comes down to investment. So how is your technology provider investing in their technological infrastructure? The modernization of a platform is actually something that's very difficult to see to the outsider, to the customer even. A lot of people, I think, relate that to what does the product look like from an end user perspective. And the UI layer, the user interface layer, is of course extremely important. That's how your users or your customers interact with each of the platforms that you utilize. But really, modernization is all about what's going on under the hood, what's going on in the back end. And that modernized framework is really something that you can only see when someone hands you the keys to the car and you can pop the hood. And in this case, that's going to be your technology provider. They can and should provide you with all of their audit documentation that goes into great detail about how they've invested in this infrastructure. And I think there's a few components of that are hypercritical, depending on what kind of technology provider you're looking for in the moment.
That is such a great analogy because it's like, you only know, especially as a consumer or maybe the client at the end, you're like, it runs great. I love it, but I don't actually know what's going on underneath the hood, right? But
Right.
there are people in every organization who should know what's going on underneath the hood.
Right, absolutely. And the customer's job is just to drive. The providers themselves, they have to do all the maintenance. They have to do all the upgrades. They have to make sure that the engine's running as perfectly as it should. And engine being a good analogy for product and pricing. But yeah, and I think the investment component of that is really, what you pay your technology providers to make sure they keep front of mind. And I think it could really dive into three main components of that. The framework that they use, the framework that's utilized by the company, and the discipline against that framework. Having a great framework is just half the battle. As you continue to develop and iterate and innovate, the discipline against making sure you're doing best practices and you're utilizing the most that framework has to offer is hypercritical. Scalability. So can this framework grow with not only you as a customer, but also the breadth of customers that provider may support? Scalability is, just about not only growing out, but also growing up, if you will, and making sure things like the scalability supports speed to market. You want your technology providers to be innovating as quickly as possible, and making sure that they're on a framework that scales properly is another core component there. And then as well as, performance. That's I think front of mind to a lot of people. How quick does it respond? How well does it respond under pressure? Be that mortgage market changes, be that rate drops, be that any sort of volatility that can come against the platform. And having a tried and true technology provider that invests in their framework, has secure and disciplined scalability procedures, and has withstood multiple iterations of the very cyclical market that we live in, and can support all kinds of performance changes that come out of that cyclical market.
Well, and really being focused on what's important and not just chasing shiny objects, right? That's always a problem with technology, is like the newest thing, the latest thing may not be the best thing for the customer.
Oh yes, oh yes, and it's a double-edged sword, right? You want to attract developers, development talent that is going to be interested in what is the new shiny technology advancement or innovation, but you also want to make sure you're putting it to good practice and tying it back to customer ROI. How does investing in this enhance my customers' return on investment through the platform that they license?
So, at your user conference, which I really enjoyed, you outlined you launched some new AI powered features, right? Really interesting. But what makes these like real AI features as opposed to like generic AI claims? Like, how do we know this is real?
Yeah, great question. The world of AI is an ever growing space. I think we learn more and more about it as each day moves forward. I think there was a lot of attention, of course, that AI grabbed with the launch of ChatGPT, for example, as well as other firms that came to play in that space. But just like with any good product planning, it's not jumping to the next best thing. It's really making sure whatever you're building out, going back to that framework, scale is it on a stable framework? Is it scalable? Will it perform well? All tied around good product management principles of what am I actually doing to solve for my customer today?
Hmm.
And that's the framework that we used or the approach that we used at Optimal Blue when we looked at how we were investing in AI. The question of investing in AI, wasn't even a question. That was a no-brainer. But how can we get something to market that really impacts our customers, like as you mentioned, but also will show innovation and tie back to, again, either maximizing their profitability on their loans that they're originating through our platform or that ROI for leveraging a product in the Optimal Blue suite. And that's really how Originator Assistant was born. It took all of those principles by being able to leverage all of the amazing capabilities that AI had brought to the space, but really masked all of the technology, if you will, in a very simple user experience that was constantly running in the back end for the originators. They never had to engage. They never had to click in and type or ask questions to receive answers. It knows what to expect. It knows what to suggest to the user. And it's one of those unicorn projects where not only does it make the customer more competitive by making sure that we get the most affordable rate or product or price out to the consumer, but it also gets the customer, the borrower, the American borrower, in the most affordable home at the end of the day, which I think is paramount for the business that we're in.
It really stuck out to me at the conference that on the solutions, it wasn't just shiny object syndrome. It was really like, how is this going to make a difference for you, the lender, for your customers, for like, it wasn't just deploying things to deploy things or like, oh, we have this capability. It was like always tied back to how this is a benefit to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, in the world of AI, I feel like we are all collectively doing a trust fall together, right? There's so much that the industry is still learning. There's so much education that still needs to be provided to the public so people become more comfortable and more confident in AI, just like with any form of new technology. This one just happens to be on steroids a little bit. But really making sure that if we can tie it back to use cases where we're not introducing risk or we're not introducing bias, but we're allowing technology to reduce risk and reduce bias to help people get more comfortable with the output of what we're providing, was another kind of lens we used to create something that we felt like would bring substantial benefit to our customers and, again, to the American borrowers that are out there interfacing with our customers every day, trying to find the best mortgage product to get into their home. But yeah, I think there's a lot out there right now that we still have to learn. There's a lot out there we still have to educate our customers on to make sure that they feel comfortable with this. There's just a lot of that trust fall still actively happening. We're midair. Hopefully, people feel like we've caught them along the way, which we certainly do. But there's a lot still to be explored in the AI space.
You touched on APIs earlier, so I really want to know, what does API first mean? You guys talk about that. I know it's really important. And how does that level of integration really impact daily operations for lenders?
Yeah, so API First is a development strategy that we deployed back in 2016. And what does that mean? It means whenever you're building a feature, so let's say you're building a new widget for a borrower, right, to come in and see your advertised rates. Instead of building these microservices that you deploy, you're going to be using APIs, which are lightweight data communication layers that have a lot of benefit, both internally to your technology provider, because it allows for quick innovation. It allows for the addition of data points with ease. It allows for the management of all of the different ways that your layers of your platform interact to be managed by these API layers. But it also has a really big benefit to customers. If your partners are exposing their APIs that they're leveraging, which is what we do here at Optimal Blue, is it allows them to really create and customize any sort of experience or any sort of workflow that they'd like to automate or they'd like to inject into other areas of other applications that they use. It really makes them kind of the master of their own creation, right? The world is their oyster. And I think that that's a really great way to not only, as they say, eat your own dog food, which I hate that phrase because I don't think our APIs are dog food by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
But the proof is in the pudding, right? So the APIs that power what our over 120,000 originators see today are the exact same APIs we make available to our customers, to our third-party providers, and it allows us to make a change in one area, and then it's deployed across all of the different ways that our customers interface with our application. So it really ties back into that scalability component and allows you to be, your speed to market is greatly reduced. So you're able to get to market quickly on changes. And then, we're 100% cloud native. So it allows us to scale out and grow as demand on our platform grows or as markets change and there's more and more users in there hitting our engine or doing anything with their locked pipeline. So it's a very, I think, very mature development process to be able to stand behind and be disciplined about. Because sometimes it's easy to be like, oh, I need to build this real quick. I'm just going to build it over here. No, you can't do that. You can't do it in a silo. You need to think about the API layer first and then layer on all the things that people think about when they think about new features, which is typically the UI, which really is the last thing that you build because that's the final component, the frosting on the cake that customers see at the end of the day.
Love that. To that point, Optimal Blue has been the go-to tech provider for product and pricing engine for years, right? Like you guys are the OG in some ways. How do you use that expertise to really benefit lenders?
Yeah, another great question. On the talked a lot about the R&D side, right? About what's going on under the hood. But just to stick on this car analogy, that navigation system, our people are really behind that. And that speaks to not only the industry experience that our employees have, but it also speaks to how long they've been with Optimal Blue. We have a lot of industry veterans and OB veterans that have been around 15 plus years that not only know how the platform works, which is of course important when you're talking about building and iterating and growing and investing in that platform, but also about how our customers work. How have they changed their project pricing appetite over the course of the years? What is front of mind for them now? And we have an amazing client services team that helps educate our product team on what customers are talking to them about. And really that goes into a lot of the, what I'll call kind of high level design that goes into the product roadmap orchestration that the product and R&D teams here at Optimal Blue execute on.
I love that. So you've got this storied history and you've got all this experience. Tell us what's next for Optimal Blue. How are you planning to evolve and continue leading in the space?
Yeah, we hot on the heels of the conference. We have some exciting things that you'll be hearing at the MBA Secondary in New York here in just a few weeks. And then it's onwards and upwards, continuing on. We've got a lot of beta programs that are currently active for some new features that we'll be releasing this year. And then behind the scenes, we're also working on all of the exciting things we'll be unveiling at our 2026 summit.
Amazing how fast that will come up, I'm sure.
Yes, that's certainly what it feels like to the teams right now. That's for sure.
Erin, thanks so much for talking to me today. Love finding out what you guys are doing. Love seeing what's coming next.
Thank you for having me.